It's the Fantasy Commissioner Show.
Yes, it's the Fantasy Commissioner Show, the show for commissioners by a commissioner. I am Reginald James, the commish. You can join me live here at rabble.tv. Come join us on the live feed. You can also tweet me at mrreginaldjames. You can also send me an email. Let's do that at thecommissshow@outlook.com. .com. Hey folks, this is the second of 3 Sundays that I'll be doing this podcast at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Then it's back to Fridays at 7 Eastern Time. So before we get into football talk, we know the Olympics are going on. They just started this week, and it's a good time. All right, just don't fall into the water. But look, quick shout out to rugby sevens. If you've never watched the game, please take a moment to do so. The women are playing right now, and let's not do that women thing. Listen, it doesn't matter. It's a good game. Here's the thing. Now, I don't watch the NBA too much anymore. Used to be a big fan, and I watched it all the time. I haven't watched a full NBA game in quite a while. And I actually do have a distaste for women's basketball. It's a different game. I'll say I don't like it, and then someone will say, but it's a different game. And yeah, ergo I don't like it. It's not men's basketball. It doesn't have to be if you want to go down that road, but I don't like it. Some sports, it doesn't matter whether it's males or females that are playing, the play style is similar. And then with other sports, it changes a bit. Rugby, it's all good. It's all good. Rugby sevens. It doesn't matter to me whether I'm watching women or men. Doesn't matter. It's all good. So right now the women are playing. The semis are tonight, and the finals will be tomorrow. And then the men start midweek. So take a moment. I mean, we've got everything. We've got, canoeing and rowing and synchronized swimming, which I actually love. I love synchronized swimming, archery, judo, table tennis, blah, blah, blah. We got the whole list. And by the way, a big fat yes for softball coming back in 2020. Yes. Man, thank you for bringing that back. For crying out loud. They shouldn't have ever taken it away anyways. But good thing that women's softball is back. We'll take that one. But take a moment, guys. Just take a moment. If you are a football fan, I'm not going to say you'll be a fan of rugby, but the chances are pretty good. The chances are pretty good that if you really like football, you'll like rugby more than you won't. And I'm really glad that it's in the Olympics. It hasn't been in the Olympics since, I think it's something like 1924, something like that. So I'm really glad it's back. And I actually coach youth rugby, and people still go, what? Rugby? Here? Huh? What? Huh? So I'm really excited that it's part of the Olympics. Now here, they're showing mostly the coverage on CNBC and USA Network because, they're all owned by NBC, which, is owned by General Electric. So they get to try and spread out the coverage amongst all the GE properties, NBC Universal properties. So if you have an opportunity, you should really check it out. I also, on a social note, I also would love for people to become more aware, especially kids in the inner city, because not everyone can be a track star, and not everyone can be a football player and make it through. But there are a lot of kids that have strength and speed, and they go off in other directions, and they think their dreams of having a good athletic career are over because they can't play football. Well, rugby is there. Lacrosse is too, by the way. Just throwing that out there. That's as far as I'm going to go on that topic. That's a big thing with me. But that's not the time and place for getting to social commentary. But that's as far as I'm going to go. But I'm just at the end of the day, let me just say I'm excited that it's available for people to watch and to seek out and to become more aware of and to understand. There you go. So this is a good weekend for the NFL fan this weekend. We had the Hall of Fame enshrinement yesterday, and the exhibition season starts tonight. So we got the Packers and we got the Colts tonight, which is awesome just because football is back. But we know the drill. You know, the starters will play sparingly, and we'll get to watch a lot of players who won't be in the NFL a month from now. And that's good. That's cool. It's good, But we know the drill. So the only preseason game that I will actually watch in its entirety is when the Dolphins are playing. And honestly, I'm not really sure why. But I haven't really, frankly, I haven't really wanted to watch them during the regular season. I've been a fan all my life. In recent history, I'm a reluctant fan. Past number of years, I haven't really been satisfied, and I just but I watch. I'm also a Dish subscriber, so if you're one too, you know that the NFL Network disappeared for a while. They had some dispute. There's always a dispute. Usually it's Time Warner. Usually it's Time Warner who's going to war with everyone. But this time, this was, the skirmish was between the Dish Network and NFL Network. But they're back, which is good. They're back just in time because they show all the preseason games. Man, that's just so awesome. And I'll watch all of them for fantasy purposes. I'll watch all of them as a fan of the NFL, but if you're a fan of the NFL, there's only so much you can take, because you're only watching, like I said, you're watching people who aren't even going to play, and lots of times, the quality of play isn't that good because depending on the team, they'll yank their starters, and then you'll have, sometimes you'll still have the A defense going against the B defense, the second defense against first string defense, and it's from game to game, it's a different kind of, the cocktail mix changes from game to game, so it depends, so I find that fascinating too. I like to see when the guys who aren't going to start, or the guys who are fighting for their NFL life, because people are watching. So you might be on a team, you might be trying to make the 53 roster for the Panthers, but the options, your chances aren't that good, but it's still a chance for you to showcase an audition, because as soon as you get cut, someone might call you within the hour and pick you up. You know what I mean? Once it's been announced, once the concept has been announced. So it's a showcase for a lot of players. So as a football fan, I watch preseason football from that perspective as well. So it depends. Sometimes I will watch a pretty, stinky game for longer than I would normally. But fantasy tip of the day. This is nothing new to your seasoned fantasy players. But if you're new to the fantasy football world, fantasy tip of the day. You just said that. I know, I'm saying it again. Take the time to watch these games. As many as you can if you have the time. I'm not going to assume what your life is like. Mine is busy, so I record all of them, and I sit and pick and choose, and I strategically, there was a time when I would sit and just like a zombie and watch, boom, boom, boom. But, now my life is a little bit different. It's a little bit different. So I strategically watch. I record all of them, but I pick and choose. So this is the time of the year when you get to feel out the alleged sleepers, which now these days I'm not sure if there are really any sleepers now. I mean, because the fantasy coverage is just so intense these days. TV, radio, internet. I mean, it's like, and this is, recent history, like maybe, I don't know, less than 10 years, but probably about the last 5 years, they'll have these sleeper lists. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I know who that guy is, but like we all do. So there's just so much more coverage, and there is so much more competition for you to consume their coverage versus someone else's. So I'm not really convinced there are sleepers anymore. But the point is, you need to see these bodies, these guys, especially if you are in deep leagues. Those 14, 16, crazy leagues. You need to know who these players are, because the talent gets spread pretty thin. Okay, pretty thinly. And especially in dynasty leagues. Dynasty leagues, big time. Okay, you need to get a look at the potential diamonds in the rough for your team. For example, I have had Luke Kuechly every year he's been in the league. Yes, including his rookie season. I'm watching, and it might have been against Buffalo. I don't know. I don't even know why I said that, but I think that's actually who it was against, but I'm not sure. So I'm watching this preseason game, and I actually think, oh man, I'm not even sure. This is probably he's been in 3-4, so maybe I'm guessing 2012, because I'm not going to look it up. I think like 2012 or something like that. I think that's right. So I'm watching Carolina play, and I see this guy, man. He's just flying all over the field. And runner runs, boom. There's this guy. Another guy, boom. There's this guy. Guy comes running, boom. I mean, it's the same dude making tackles. And I'm like, who is that guy? What? Wow. So, I take note. And because at that time, John Beeson had been one of my favorite targets for IDP, because that's the kind of league we have. So John Beeson was the man, but he had been injured, and so he wasn't playing a lot. And I think maybe even at that time he wasn't even. I think they were still bringing him along slowly. I don't think they were letting him play at the time, and that's why Kuechly was getting reps with the first defense and stuff, because Beeson was coming off an Achilles, and you know how that is. I mean, for any player, that's not a good thing. But for a middle linebacker who has to track and run down ball carriers, that's a pretty vicious injury, and it's hard to come back from. So I see this linebacker running around, so that's fresh in my mind, and I'm like, sitting there holding myself and humming like Miss Celia in a rocking chair. So I targeted him. I was going to draft him. Now the thing is, the thing is, someone else in my league drafted him, and I'm not gonna say his name because he drives me crazy. This dude in my league, man. I'm like, man, there was a day. Yes, there was a day when there were actually sleepers, and I was one of those guys. That guy in your league who always picked players, and you'd be like, who is that? And then that guy turned out to be really good. Yeah, I'm going to give myself credit. I will pat myself on the back. I'm one of those guys, or I was. Because now, like I said, the tables have turned. The playing field is more even for fantasy players. If you actually stick your nose out, you don't even have to stick your nose out. I mean, the information will just fall right on your head like a ton of bricks, in an earthquake or something. You don't even have to try anymore. But I knew back in the day when they were actually sleepers, and I was the one who was stealing them. There's one dude in my league. I was always confident. I'd rake my players. I'm like, okay, I can let this guy fall a couple more rounds because I know I'm going to get him. And then this guy, he got better and better and better. And then all of a sudden, bing! What? He took, whoa! This guy started taking my sleepers. I'm like, what the? And so this was this is when he was getting in, he was starting to find his stride that season. And so I was so confident that I wasn't going to miss out on Luke Kuechly because I figured people would draft Beast and no. No. So I was going to draft him, and this dude drafted him, and I went nuts. I couldn't believe that someone could do that. Like, how dare you do that to me? I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, come on, man. So now, we're way down the, so I know better. So now, fantasy tip of the day. Like, if there's a player you want, you should just get them, and don't worry about if you feel like you're reaching or getting them too early. Everyone's got their favorite players. Okay, so if you want that guy, get that guy. And in my case, I know, I have my favorites for this year, and I know I have to watch. I tracked this guy. And there's another dude who's starting to like the same players that I like. I think we like the same type of players. So now it feels like I'm getting double teamed. So now I really got to go get guys if I want them, and I can't, screw around and let guys fall down the draft, that sort of thing. And so anyways, he drafted this guy. And I knew that going into the season, the Panthers were going to give Beeson a chance to start because he was the man. I mean, some of you younger guys are like, I don't even know who he's talking about, but you wanted him, like you wanted Ray Lewis, like you wanted Urlacher. So, I mean, you wanted those guys. So, Luke Kuechly was that, saying Luke Kuechly today was what Beeson was in the past. You got him, or like Lewis, not Lewis, Patrick Willis. IDP, Patrick Willis, gold, right? So I knew the Panthers were going to give, their man a chance to come back. He earned that right. So, season starts, he starts. Kuechly, here and there, no big deal. And so the guy who drafted him got impatient, and he dropped him. Gold. I picked Kuechly up, and I just waited. And Beeson lost his job. Gold. I was done, baby. All done. And we have a keeper league. We get to keep one player. Well, I kept Kuechly. That was my keeper. That's right. Yes, I kept the IDB player. What of it, man? Yes, I kept him. So Kuechly, because I was watching preseason, I saw what he could do before he became Luke Kuechly. You know what I mean, right? Okay. So you're insane if he's not at the top of your your abolitionist board. Wait, what is that? You're insane, okay, if he's not at the top of your IDP. Wonderful, splendiferous. All right, but if you're paying attention because you watched preseason football, you might have been able to take advantage of him too. I know I wasn't the only one. I mean, what I did wasn't, anything out of the ordinary. It's just that, I was paying attention. And I know there are other people who, they're into it like I am too, and they're watching all the preseason games. But for your new folks, it's something you might want to think about, And, we're not a dynasty league, but think about if you were in a dynasty league and you knew that you had better get that guy and you're watching a preseason game. Gold. So if it's a stinky game like Cleveland and Buffalo, I don't even know if they're playing in preseason, but let's say they are, right? I ain't watching it. I don't want one player on any of those teams. I'll record it, though, just in case I have a change of heart and I need to check out a player, but anyway, guys, it's something to consider. New players, do some homework, and granted, as long as you have access to the NFL Network, the options, the opportunity is there. It's there. It's there for you to try and get an edge on your opponents. Okay? It's there. So, here's the count in Care Paravel. If you're new to the podcast, if you're listening to me for the very first time, that's my league. That's the league that I run for almost 20 years. I'm the commissioner. Always have been. And I started it and ta-da. So, this alludes back to rule number 2. Rule number 2 is business before family and friends. So the deadline for my league to receive the pool money, you have to get the pool money to me. This year, it's Monday, August 22nd. We have 12 members, and as of today, 7 people have paid and have reclaimed their team from last year. One person, they have paid, but they haven't claimed their slot yet. Oh, okay. So now that leaves 4 people who haven't paid me. Now, I sent the letter. Commissioners, listen up. I've been, I've seen stuff on the net about commissioners opening their leagues, August 1st. Maybe that's special day, but a lot of leagues have just opened up this week, and then other leagues have they were drafting in July. Don't understand that, but that's your league. But I sent the letter, the letter with all the key deadline dates for the season on April 28th. April 28th. Now, how many months ago was that? You do the math. Ding, bing, 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 bing. You do the math. So, yes, I will follow my rules. I will follow the rules that I wrote down, and I will take the option to replace anyone who hasn't paid by the 22nd. That's it. It's in writing. That's rule number 1. Put it in writing. And today we will be discussing rule number 4. So if you're interested in rules number 1, 2, and 3, those were in the prior podcast from the last couple of weeks. Please check them out. But rule number 1, I've done that. It's in writing. And I've informed everyone months ahead of time. Months ahead of time. I'm being transparent, which is rule number 3. Be transparent. And I will take care of my business before family and friends, which is rule number 2, and I will replace them if I have to. Because here's the deal, people. Here's the deal. I don't need to hear anyone say, well, couldn't it just be for fun? And sometimes you got to give people slack. And no. There's one person, they've been in the league for 3 years. Everyone else, that's it. That's the shortest time that someone has been in this league. I methodically do the same thing year after year after year. So a bar has been set. The precedent has been set. So everyone in my league has many, many months. They know what's coming, right? And hopefully, if you start a league, if you are a new commissioner and you start a league, you want to be in a situation like my league and like other people's leagues where they have players who've been in there for a long time, players that, they know the drill is, they understand, no one's crazy, you don't have anyone sabotaging the league, you've got good people. And I do think I have good people in the league, and those good people have until the 22nd to get me money, or they might get replaced. But I forgot what the point I was trying to make. But um, here's the point. This is not. This is one thing I like to. I'll say to my young players. Whether it's rugby or football or something. I'm like, this is a team sport, and it's not about just you. And if you want it to be just about you, then go play golf. Go play tennis. Go throw darts. Okay. So if you're in a league with other people, a league, that's the hope. That's what a league is. There's no league with one person, right? So if you're in a league with other people, you can't draft if your league isn't locked. Now, in our league, we play in Yahoo. So every time an even number of people in Yahoo tells you that you can draft now. Well, sorry, we can't. We have 12 members. We need all 12 members in order to draft. And if people don't claim all their slots and give me the money, then I can't lock the league. Meaning I can't go, boom, we're done. And then Yahoo goes, okay, you're done. Now proceed to these other steps. There's other steps that I can't do, like release the keepers and set the keepers. If I don't have all 12 people locked in, then I can't set the keepers. So you are in a league, just like on a football team. You owe it to get your stuff together because there's other people that are doing this with you. Now, at this point, I'm not even sure who I'm talking to, but I'm explaining the situation. So if you are a commissioner, you understand that. You want things set and done so you can just go about your business and be just a fantasy football player. So that's the drill. It's not about trying to be, the ruler of the world and all that junk, or being a dictator. It's got nothing to do with that. And there's always somebody, there's always people who always take that position. Well, you're just this and you're just that, and why can't we just have fun, and why can't we just all be happy? You have to give people a chance sometimes, and sometimes people have a reason for being late. Nope, sorry, they got the letter April 28th. Shh, be quiet, shh. But I just, shh. Well, sometimes, shh, that's just rude. Shh. So if you're in a league, you owe it to meet the deadlines so the other members who are playing with you can move forward as well. When you're dragging your behind, then the other players, because every once in a while, because, it's human nature. I'll always get someone like the very last week. And just so you know, other members in the league will go, hey, is so-and-so okay? Are they joining the league this year? Because they're watching, because they know we can't release keepers and we can't do all these other things, and I can't set the draft order. I can't do any of those things through the platform that I choose to use unless I call it lockdown, unless we get into lockdown. Okay? I came across the following post. I noticed at the end of last year in one of the leagues I was in that quarterback scoring was lowered. The owner of this league owned a Facebook group and did weekly updates but never mentioned this change to anyone in the group. At the end of the season, I made a post suggesting several changes that included moving the league draft back, hosting the championship game earlier, and restoring quarterback scoring to standard. I never mentioned that the scoring was cheating, but apparently the commissioner thought I was insinuating that he waited until now, the beginning of August of this year, to tell me. As a result, my wife and I were booted from the league. I was saddened by this because we had been in this league a couple years, and it gave my wife a chance to keep close with some of her old college friends. If I'm being accused of insinuating that it was cheating, does making a change without telling anyone actually constitute cheating? And I say, this question has a number of things to address. Number one, the commissioner should have told the league of the change in scoring. That's it. We can stop the discussion right there. We're not, but we could. The commissioner should have told the league of the change in scoring. And I'm not even going to say they should have put it to a league vote. The point is, what was the rule we discussed 2 weeks ago? What's rule number 3? Be transparent. That's all we're talking about here. Making sure you inform the league of every move. Every move. You like that? Every move. Every move you're going to make. So that you can't be accused of being shady. Not unlike what's being discussed in the post that we're talking about. So whatever rules you have set, if your league votes or whether you have license to make certain changes on your own, the point is the league should have been informed during the off season about the scoring change. Now, here's the flip side of that. If you're in a league, it's up to you to review the rules. Because I can actually argue both sides of this, so just bear with me. Just bear with me here, young whippersnappers. So if the original poster had checked the rules prior to the start of the season, because let's just say he's a just-in-case guy, he would have noticed the change. Now, this still doesn't absolve the commissioner from not doing the right thing. He did not do the right thing. So let's be clear. I don't need any emails going, I don't even understand why you said that. He was wrong. He's a cheater. Blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you that the commissioner did not do the right thing. But we all have to be responsible for ourselves, right? I'll get into that a little bit more. So this commissioner, it sounds like he regularly posted stuff on Facebook. So can we say that the other league members assumed that he would keep them up to date on any changes? Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, especially for something as big as a scoring change for quarterback. So we can do that. We can say that. If the guy posted stuff all the time on Facebook, there's a certain assurance that the players have that this guy is going to do the right thing, right? So I'm just going to guess here because it didn't say. I'm going to guess that maybe the change was, they were changing it to 4 points for a thrown touchdown. I actually think that scoring is silly, but it's common. It's common. It's a common thing in fantasy leagues. So now I actually talked about that last week, about the added value of, for example, the added value of wide receivers and running backs who get awarded special teams points. That they obviously are more valuable, just like quarterbacks, perhaps in this case, just like quarterbacks who also score by running. Because they get 6 points for running, and if they throw a touchdown, it's not worth 6 points, it's worth 4. Well, if you have scoring like that in your league, and if there are quarterbacks, and we know who those quarterbacks are, they're more likely to run in the red zone than to throw a pass. So this change certainly dictates what kind of rankings and what draft chart you're going to make. It makes a difference. Next. So the commissioner decided that he didn't like what the poster had to say, so he didn't ask them back for this coming season. Okay. That's his prerogative, I guess. It's not cool, though. But what are you going to do about it? I mean, that's something you can't control. And by the way, the wife can still keep up with her friends, can't she? I mean, she can, can't she? That's all I have to say about that. So again, the actual question, if I'm being accused of insinuating that it was cheating, does making a change without telling anyone actually constitute cheating? Okay, well, I'm not really sure if not informing the league of the rule change is cheating. Oh, there's people like going, what are you talking about? What are you talking? What's wrong with you, Reginald James? You're stupid. But I'm going to say, at the very least, it's bad communication. And once again, the commissioner did the wrong thing. It's not following rule number 3. Be transparent. That right there, we can establish that. So it wasn't fair. So in the sense that he was able to draft with the quarterback scoring in mind while the other members didn't, that's not good. But once again, just Just throwing this out there, and I'm totally on the side of the poster, but once again, this is just something to think about. Not one person in the league. Did not one person in the league take a peek at the rules at least once? Huh. So in one sense, folks, we can at least argue or suggest that it might be a good idea to review the rules each year, just in case. And in this case, for the whole cheater tag, you would have to be able to prove what his intent was in order to tag him as a cheater. Because cheating to me, in this case, it would be if he made the change after the draft and knew he was going to do that, so he drafted accordingly, made the change, hoping no one would notice because he knew he wasn't going to announce it. That would be cheating. You can disagree, splendid. But to me, that would be cheating. But like I said, it's enough just to say he didn't do the right thing by the league because he didn't tell them what he did. That's why I said we could have stopped right there. We didn't even have to get into the discussion. We didn't have to do that. Bad commissioner. Because I'm going to assume the change took place before the season started. Because there's nothing in the post to indicate that he did it afterwards. Real life example of keeping your league up to speed. Not necessarily because you need to, but because you should. This week, Care Paravel, I informed the league that I was going to use Yahoo's schedule randomizer. Because last year during the season had already started. And I don't know. I pick and poke and read a lot, so I'm not sure why I didn't notice this. I think it was new last year. And I was like, what is this? Oh. Huh. So later on in the year, near the end of the season, I will suggest this because we'll have our, prepare for our next season show. But I'll make lists or notes during the course of the year. So I made note and I made a folder for 2016 and I put that in there and I just left it. So this year when, the season came around, I blew off the dust and there it was. It's like, oh yeah. So I noticed last year after the season already started that there was a schedule randomizer. So you can, punch a little button or click a box, whatever, and they'll randomize your schedule. They'll create your schedule randomly, which I think is awesome. So I informed the league that I was going to use the randomizer. That is being transparent. Very simple. I actually could have not told them though. I mean, right? They might not have even noticed. It's not a scoring change. It's not something that I think folks should notice. I mean, why would they notice, boom, there's the schedule. Why would they even think, oh, I bet that schedule was randomized? But, as we talked about last week, as a commissioner, you want to hold yourself to a higher level of scrutiny, right? We just added 3 extra syllables to scrutiny. You want to hold yourself to a higher level of scrutiny. So I told them. This week I also made an attempt to clarify a rule. Okay, so they got a letter this week. It had the key dates, which I guess you can say was a reminder, but it wasn't. But during the course of the season, anytime I send a letter to someone, I always just put the key dates back. I always put the, money due here, keeper, deadline here, blah, blah, blah. That's always that's always locked in at the top of the message that I send to the league. So additionally, this week I also made an attempt to clarify a rule. So this is also a case where I really could have not said anything. I could have, I could have clarified the rule, which I did, and I could do it without telling anyone. I didn't change the rule. Once again, I just made it more clear, so there wouldn't be any misunderstanding or confusion. And I did it because someone last season asked me about it, and I'm going to read the change I made in a second. But I thought what I had written last year was clear. Maybe not. So for me, I was just trying to be more specific, I guess. But I could have just said, hey, I'm not changing a rule, so I'm not going to bother telling them what I just did. If they read the rules, they'll see what I did. They're supposed to read the rules. That was a choice. But I made another choice, what I think was a better choice, which was to follow rule number 3 and be transparent. I do remind the league to read the rules every season, but still. So here it is. Here's the rule from 2015. Number 4. Players can be kept for 1 additional season for a maximum of 2 seasons. That's it. That was the rule from 2015. Rule number 4. And here's the rule now, which is now split into 2 rules. Rule number 4 and rule number 5. Number 4. Players can be kept for 1 additional season for a maximum of 2 seasons. Now here's the new language. Their status as a keeper will be designated by the letter K at the end of their name. Number 5. A player's keeper status remains with the player. The player is not available to keep the following season, no matter if or how many times during the preseason the player 1 is traded, is dropped from a team and claimed off waivers by another team, is dropped from a team and clears waivers, becoming a free agent. So there you go. So I sent the league a copy of the 2015 rules and a copy of the newest set of rules for this year, with the changes printed in red. Now, I think if you're a commissioner, and especially if you can make changes without a league vote, it's your job to not make rules. It's your job to not make moves, like Jagger. I hate that song. I so hate that song. It's your job to not make moves. It's your job to not make any changes without informing the league. You have to inform the league. It's something that you should do. Now, once again, I told my league about the changes. Now, one could argue I really didn't have to. That wouldn't be my argument, obviously. That wouldn't be my position. But I think you get my point. Which brings us to rule number 4. Rule number 4. Rule number 1, put it in writing. Rule number 2, business before family and friends. Rule number 3, be transparent. Rule number 4, don't make it personal. 2 hats. You have them. Your hat that you wear when you just want to participate in a fantasy league. You want to just compete. You want to have fun. I want to have fun. I want to frolic. Yay. And you want to watch football. Woo! Right? But if you're a commissioner, you also have another hat, right? The one that you wear when you're organizing the league, when you're collecting dues, when you're adding rules, modifying rules, when you're putting forward proposals to the league, blah, 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 right? And because you're a commissioner, you have to learn to take the high road. You do. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard and detach yourself from the silly stuff that can happen between human beings. Because sometimes we just get downright stupid. Which means you might want to refrain from getting into personal exchanges on the message board, heated, stupid, silly high school level exchanges, third grade level exchanges. You might want to take a moment to decide whether you want to participate in smack talk. Right? Now, you could be, hey, At the moment in time, you're just playing around like everyone else. They know you're playing around, but the day someone decides that they have an issue with you, they'll go back to that moment and claim that you were biased against them all along. It's a choice. It's a choice. Sometimes I'll get a response like, "Who are you to tell everybody what to do? You don't have all the answers." And I'm like, dude, where are you coming from? Like, what planet are you coming from? I never said these are the rules of fantasy football, and if you don't follow them, you shall die. I shall come find you and kill your whole family. What's wrong with people? It's a choice. It's a choice. Now, I can hear that person. Every once in a while, I'll get that response, and I'm like, man, what is the deal with this cat? "Yeah, man, you're too serious about this stuff. It's fantasy football. What's fantasy football without the smack talk? Yeah. Uh-huh. It wouldn't be fun without the smack talk. Uh-huh. That's just stupid. If you think people can't tell the difference between smack talk and a real beef, yep. Your choice." And then one day, an email comes. "Oh, man, people are choosing sides now. I was just playing, and now I'm being accused of creating a toxic environment for our league." See, I've never read a letter where someone used the word toxic, and that dude wouldn't be using the word toxic anyway. I just wanted to use the word toxic. My wonderful fantasy commissioner listeners, your happy world can change in a second. So you have a choice. Accept the fact that you're a commissioner. This is like what's that game show? Not Wheel of Fortune. Let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. Okay? This is Let's Make a Deal. Behind door number 1, you can accept the fact, but let's say these doors are open, so you actually know what's behind the doors. But then I guess that wouldn't be Let's Make a Deal. Okay, but this is the mutant version of Let's Make a Deal. Okay, the doors are open. So door number 1 is open. And right there is you accepting the fact that since you're a commissioner, there are just some things you shouldn't do anymore. Okay? And door number 2 is open. And right there in door number 2 is, or you could make a choice to put yourself in a situation where you might get your Johnson hacked off. Yeah, they'll be glad to treat you as one of the guys until they have a vested interest to not do so. Then you're the evil, conniving, shady, biased, he broke up with my sister commissioner. You're going to be looked at differently if you're the commissioner of a league. You are. Why? Because you've got the power. It's getting kind of heavy. It's getting kind of heavy. So you stay out of personal squabbles. Make the choice. You watch what you say in what would be considered ordinary social situations. You don't get involved in the BBBs, which is the bulletin board beefs. Now, man, I just want to have fun. You can still have fun, but let's just be smart, shall we? Now, if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to be held to a higher standard, yeah, treat it differently, and at times unfairly, then don't start a league. And don't offer to take over a league for someone else. Case in point, I am the commissioner of my league. I know one of the guys was targeting Joyke Bell off waivers because he had Abdullah and had been talking about what we were going to do this week. He had a higher waiver than I did. On Wednesday, he had picked up Tyler Lockett, not Bell. So I took Bell, who is a free agent now. He was upset because he said he put in a waiver claim for Bell. He thinks I should reverse the transaction or trade Lockett and Bell. What would you do? Short answer, there's nothing to do here. We're not going to blame the computer. We're not going to blame the software. User error is no excuse for bad waiver claims gone astray. So, why didn't your league mate get Bell? Now, we can sit here and theorize all day, but obviously he put in a bid for Lockett. Did he mean to put in a bid for Bell but forgot? Did he put in a bid for Bell and then replaced it with the Lockett bid? I mean, normally when you put in a multiple claims, you have to rank the claims that you're making. Now, what likely happened was that they set up 2 waiver claims for both Lockett and Bell, but used the same player to drop, say, Isaiah Crowell, right? What the hell? So they mistakenly kept the Lockett claim as top priority, the first waiver claim, and got Lockett, and that would end his series of transactions, and he misses out on Bell. Now, has he admitted to doing any of the above? Now, until I hear differently from you, let's assume he has not. Mr. Commissioner, do you feel guilty or obligated to do something? I, Reginald James, the commissioner, says don't. You have no obligation to make him feel better and change the transaction because of user error. When you are commissioner of a league, you wear 2 hats. You have 2 roles, one as a player and one as commissioner. Now, in this case, you weren't the commissioner. You were just another player. Obviously, he wouldn't be asking you to change anything if you were just another dude in the league. He messed up. You got a free agent that was available. That's it. He's treating the situation differently and looking for a reversal precisely because you're the commissioner and you knew the player he wanted. He's claiming that something went wrong. You're the commissioner, so you should fix it. Right? Wrong. Nothing to fix here. Now, if you still feel compelled to do something, then send out a general letter reminding folks to review the waiver claim process. Give them the link to the rules. And the letter goes to everyone, so it doesn't become a personal issue. Rule number 4, don't make it personal. That's what we're talking about. The letter goes to everyone, so it doesn't become a personal issue between the 2 of you. This will be a good lesson for them going forward. To do what? To check and double check their waiver claims before closing the page and moving on. That's just another example from the real world. The real world of fantasy football. Right? Not the, yeah, you're just stupid, Reginald James. My friends would never. Hey, you. Shut your face. Commish. I was having what I thought was an ordinary conversation about fantasy football with one of the guys in our league. The subject of Julius Thomas came up, and I mentioned that I would totally pick him up if I had the room on my roster. Apparently, they picked him up, and he won his game. The pickup turned out to be a good one. Thomas scored his 2nd touchdown in 2 weeks. The guy who lost is now accusing me of tampering because they think I told the guy to pick Thomas up, and he thinks that has something to do with him losing. I think this is crazy, and I'm not really sure how to respond except to tell him he's crazy. I didn't tell the guy to pick Thomas up. I said that I would, if I could. Am I missing something here? Or can I really be accused of tampering? I don't think so, but I thought I'd ask, just to be sure. LOL. Ha 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 ha. Wow. Yes, this is a crazy situation. No, I don't think you're guilty of tampering. I think the person accusing you of tampering is out of line. He could have lost for a number of reasons. I'm going to assume the person who you discussed Julius Thomas with told this guy you told him to pick Thomas up. Perhaps. But you didn't tamper. You didn't tamper, but you're being accused of it. This is the part of your story that warrants further discussion. And this is what we've been talking about for the bulk of this podcast today. Like it or not, as commissioner, you are held to a higher standard. You shouldn't have to worry about every little thing you say to individuals in your league. You shouldn't. However, you have to be aware that everything you say and do could potentially be under scrutiny. Scrutiny without the 3 extra syllables. And unfortunately, you almost have to assume that that is actually the case. And I'm going to read that again, because this is what I actually wrote. You have to be aware that everything you say and do could potentially be under scrutiny, and unfortunately, you almost have to assume that is actually the case. If the person who picked up Julius Thomas had the same conversation with someone else, it's doubtful there would be accusations flying around. Even the best of commissioners with the best of intentions will, sooner or later, have those intentions questioned. You may give someone advice that doesn't work out. Then all of a sudden you're accused of sabotaging someone's ability to win or setting something up for your own benefit. It happens. It just goes with the territory. Commissioner, territory, falling in your lap. Just make sure you take the high road. Don't say anything unnecessary to your accuser. He may even know, and most people do, he may even know that what he's saying is incorrect, but his pride, his ego, men and their pissing contests. Pride and ego. Ooh, I'm a man. What'd you call me? All right, that part of his manhood, it won't let him admit it just yet. It'll eventually blow over, and maybe someone else in the league, maybe they've already told him that he's wrong. So, while you shouldn't become paranoid of talking football with your league mates, maybe you should decide exactly what your parameters are. Decide what they're going to be going forward. Because this is an area where each of us as commissioners have to decide what we're comfortable with. It's a choice. We talked about it earlier today. Choice. It's your choice. It's your choice, folks. So do you give advice or not give advice? Do you still discuss fantasy strategy for fun? Or now decide to avoid doing that altogether? Deciding not to talk football at all with your friends that's not satisfying. It's not a sensible option either. I mean, part of the fun of fantasy football and being in a league is that you get to talk about the sport with each other. I mean, at the very least, you might decide not to give unsolicited advice. If they don't ask, you don't tell. If they don't ask, you don't give. You may choose to handle each person differently based on how long you've known them, how well you know them, and whether they are a friend or a family member. And it's going to take experience learning how to deal with the league member's inability or refusal. I'm a man. Look at my ego crash all over the room. I'm a man. Their refusal to differentiate between your role as a friend, acquaintance, or fellow owner and your role as a commissioner. Sounds like to me you've dealt with the situation well enough, so just hang in there. Another aspect of rule number 4, don't make it personal. Route number 4, and that's the rule of the day. I already said that a little bit earlier, and I kind of jumped the gun, but that's what we're talking about. Don't make it personal. It's when you are put in the position to make a disciplinary action, or if you're in that position, keep the letter as formal as possible. Don't talk about their mama. Don't talk about their girlfriend. You're acting in an official capacity. Also, and let's go back to the first letter. Global messages are awesome to use when instead of sending a message to one person. So, for example, say someone left a roster slot open last Sunday. They shouldn't do that, right? They shouldn't do that. So, you send a message to the whole league in the form of a reminder. The intended object of your affection, they'll get the message, and the league sees that you got the message to them, but you don't put that person in a direct position to get all pissy and get defensive and pissy. Because some folks they're just always looking for a reason to get pissy. And you don't want to feed that beast. That's just human nature. You can try. And I said try. Give me a T. T. Give me an R. R. Give me a Y. Yeah. What do we got? Try. I said try. You can try to take steps to avoid situations like that. Commissioners, you want to be smarter than the average bear. You know you know there's the potential for someone to act in a way that they shouldn't. And your goal is to lessen the odds. So, stay above the fray because it's your job. So you can follow me on Twitter, folks, at mrreginaldjames. My email, thecommisshow@outlook.com. Once again, thanks for listening. We got one more Sunday coming up. This is the Fantasy Commissioner Show. I am Reginald James, the Commish. Until next time, see ya.